If you are a regular viewer of the weekly webisodes, you may remember when we started many years ago that Sara Naumann was my cohort and partner in crime. And Sara moved first to Amsterdam, then to Poland, but the woman has been busy.
And recently she's been busy with a new DVD, which is just a wonderful creation called Mixed Media Made Easy. It's got 100 techniques and 100 projects, and she does a video for each and every technique.
Right.
That's like 8.5 hours of video.
It is. The woman is taking a nap right now. And what we're doing is kind of culling some of our favorites to show you today.
Come play with us.
Well, here is Sara's very first DVD. Now, this is a computer DVD.
Right.
So it won't work in a DVD player. It works on your computer. And like all of our DVDs, there are videos with it, as you said. And there's Sara. Hi, Sara. And there she is, little teeny tiny, smiling through 8.5 hours of video. But what Sara wanted to do is true to the title. She wanted to make it easy. So she's taking each process, each technique, and do it individually.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you've got the technique, but you've also, with the DVD, got the supply list and the instructions, everything else you need to create the projects in the DVD.
Absolutely. And let me just show you. So here it is on the inside, and here's the back, showing all of the chapters and the types of things that are covered.
There are lots of different techniques, lots of different chapters, and she is just an excellent teacher. She's really good at step-by-step showing exactly what you need to do to duplicate the process.
She is. So let's show you now. What's going to happen is when you open it up, it'll just launch, and then you can pick the chapter. So if you decide to pick chapter 2, Easy Altering Techniques, you'll see this on your screen, and then you just click either on the project or on the DVD or the video, whatever you want.
So you'll get the video, you'll get the instructions, whatever you need, but there's lots of different ideas to choose from.
And that's chapter 2. There's chapter 6, Shimmer and Shine, with perfect pearls and with stickles.
There's so many different media techniques to choose from here. Gelatos, inks, sprays, you've got embossing paste, distress inks. Ooh, look at that one.
Let's get into the stuff, okay? Now, this is in chapter 1, and this is spraying through dazzle. So this is using spritzes and sprays, which is chapter 1.
Correct.
Okay.
And in this one in particular, the leaf that you see there was a stencil that was used, a dazzle stencil. So you modify that to spray right through it with a dilution spray.
And you're going to show us.
And that's the technique I'm going to show you. So I'm pulling out my craft sheet. I have the Nature's Touch dazzles here. Some of them have been used, but I've got that. I also have a perfect pouch because Sara suggests using baby powder, but there's a powder in that perfect pouch, so that's what I'm using today. I have the Cut Grass Dilutions ink spray, and I have a piece of cardstock here. So I'm going to start by pulling off this dazzle.
Now it's funny, when I saw this card, I didn't recognize that shape as a dazzle.
Oh, really?
So that was interesting.
So it really does alter it.
Yeah, it does.
This is one of those altering techniques.
Because like I know everything that we make.
And this technique is from the first chapter, so altering with a dazzle. Now I'm going to take this, I'm going to turn that over, so now it's sticky side up. I'm going to take my perfect pouch, or you would use baby powder if you have that, and I'm just sort of pouncing around so I can get that powder.
Oh, to reduce the stickiness of it.
Right.
Oh,
you don't want it to stick to what you're doing. I'm going to leave it a little bit tacky at the bottom and at the top because I still want to be able to stick it in place.
Okay.
So that's just powdery enough so I can touch it now. It doesn't stick to my fingers. I'm going to place that on my cardstock, however I like to do. And there, it sort of sticks at the top and the bottom because that's where I left it a little bit tacky. Now I'm going to spray it. So we're going to pull in the spraying box.
Right.
Set that in there, and you can shake up your dilutions a little bit, and then just a couple of quick spritzes. And here, we'll go ahead and pull that out.
Okay.
Afterwards, you can sort of blot it dry just to get some of the dilutions off of the dazzle itself.
Especially if you're doing it on camera and you want to get it dry faster.
Oh, that works. See, it still looks nice. And then you remove that dazzle, and there you go. Instant stencil.
Very fun. Boy, that just gives lots more ideas for our very favorite dazzles. Very interesting. Now, with yours, it was a little bit lighter in the center. With Sarah's, it was a little bit darker. So you can control that.
Sure, play with that. And think of all the different colors that you can use with that. Now, that's just spraying through. I'm thinking you can probably pounce an ink pad through that too. Use those dazzles for stencils if you remove the tackiness. Start
thinking it as in terms of other things that you can do. And then on the inside, she's used another of the little leaves to have the inside message, and it looks like the tiny words and phrases.
And very simply, that is such a simple technique. You saw how quick it was to create. And if you blot it dry, then it's dry already. You don't have to wait for it to dry.
Okay, and I know that all of you are thinking, what else can I do with those dazzles using them as stencils? So thank you, Sarah. Step number 1. We're going to move to step number 2. Now this comes from chapter 2.
Right, and this is the packing tape photo transfer. So this is just, I just have to show you what that is, but you can see the photo back there is actually a laser print of a photo. So you just use a laser printer instead of you don't want to use photo paper because it's too thick for this technique.
And the shiny, and I'm seeing some wrinkles or bubbling a little bit.
A little bubbling, a little bit
pretty.
of removal of some of the photo. It's kind of a vintagey technique. Also, it's been stamped on afterwards. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how that was done. I have a laser copy, so just on printer paper of a photo. I took a lily the way she did, different picture, but same technique. And then I have packing tape. So I've got this clear packing tape, and I'm going to start by covering that photo with the packing tape.
Which seems wrong somehow, just absolutely wrong.
Well, it's not on photo paper, so you don't have to go, I'm ruining a photo. It's just a copy, and so it's no problem. Which is kind of neat. You could do this to any of your photos of your kids or anything too without worrying about ruining it. Okay.
So just covering it.
Just covering it. Okay. And that's all I need that for. And then I'm going to burnish it on, make sure that it's all over the paper, and just using my fingers, really, it's good enough. It's
Do you want a bone folder?
No, it's really not necessary. You're just making sure that the tape sticks to the photo. Now I'm going to turn it over. So now I've got the back side of that, and I have my water spritzer, and I'm going to saturate the paper. So sometimes you might have to wait a minute or two to make sure that that gets all the way saturated. I'm going to go ahead and sort of see if I can move it around. Because what you're going to do is you're going to start rolling off the paper on the back by rubbing around with your fingers. And you see the paper just start pilling up.
Oh, right.
Now, Sarah says to use firm pressure, but you don't want to damage the photo too much. So if you go too much through, you're going to ruin that photo on the front. It just seems to stop when you get to the photo, though. So I've noticed, it just sort of, mostly it leaves it on there. And this does take a few minutes to do, but you see you just kind of keep working it and peeling off the paper as it's coming off the back of that.
So the areas that were really saturated, it seems like they just roll right off. Just
so
really
I'm going to go
easily.
ahead and I would continue on. You can get off as much as you like. You can really work it and sort of get in those areas.
It's actually not taking much time.
It doesn't really take all that much. And then once you have it,
it's translucent.
It's sort of translucent, so you can set it over other things. I have another one here that I did earlier. It's the same, and then you trim it to the outside. And I didn't even take all that much off. I could wet it again and continue if I wanted to make it even more translucent. But
and I like the finish of the tape on the top, that shiny. And I don't see the, where you had two pieces.
Yeah, it's not too much. I mean, it's on there, but it's just, it's just kind of an eclectic little look. And I think that's a neat technique.
This is one of those techniques that I wonder, okay, how did the first person figure this out? And what in the heck were they doing?
Right. But they just looked around and saw that packing tape and
water and put them together. But how fun. What a nice thing to know. And this is a place where I really appreciate how Sara has really devised this whole DVD, is that rather than showing you 5 different things to do, she's breaking them down step by step to make it, in truth, making it easy. And this is just a great example. And then on the inside, she just has a simple little stamped greeting right there. So we're going to go now to another transfer, and this time it's using embossing paste. And I have to tell you, I love the scuffiness of this.
Right, it's a little bit vintage, a worn look, weathered. I like that too. And the neat thing about it is, well, it's amazing that you can use embossing paste and have that photo transfer that way, but it also creates a mirror image of the photo. Oh, which is just another little surprise. That's really neat.
Okay, show me.
Okay, so I have white embossing paste, have a mini squeegee so that I can move this around, and just a piece of cardstock and a photocopy on just copy paper, just a laser print. So I'm going to start by putting the embossing paste onto the cardstock. Now, I'm using the mini squeegee. Sara said that you don't want to, let me back up. Usually when you're using embossing paste, you're trying to make a pretty thick layer for whatever you're doing. In this case, she said you want to do this like you're buttering bread. You don't really want all that much on there. You just want to make a thin layer, something that's going to completely cover the cardstock so that the photo will be covered all over with it.
So buttering bread that you're not lavishing it on.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So just not super thick, and you don't want a whole bunch of it coming out the sides.
But you are trying to cover it thoroughly.
But I am trying to cover all of make sure all the cardstock has it on there. In her video, she suggests using a paintbrush, and that would work too. But this,
we like the squeegee because it's so handy.
So there we go. That's pretty much on there. I'm going to cover that up so it doesn't dry up. Always do that. And then you just take your photo without any preparation and you just place it on top of there. And then you start just by using your fingers and just making sure it
I have to tell you, I'm sitting here thinking, are you sure that's right? Really? That's what you do?
I am. Also, if you really want it to lay flat, I think using your fingers is good enough, but you can also use a brayer on there. That's an option. And just, now, the thing about this is you do have to let it dry completely. So that's going to dry for a few hours or possibly overnight.
Oh, really?
But lucky for us, I have one that's already dry.
Through the magic of Gail.
So that's nice and dry and ready to go. You've got your water. Now here's the top. This is where the photo is. Cardstock on the back, photo that you placed onto the embossing paste on top. You want to saturate it. So it is pretty much the same thing that we did with the last one. We're going to get it wet.
Rub it off?
Right. On this one in particular, I don't like to start on the edges because it sort of picks up the photo as well. So start kind of rubbing around in the center.
And again, you're lifting off the
right.
paper. That is amazing.
Found that this is just a little bit more delicate as far as removing that photo. It's still pretty easy to get it going, and I did have to add water a few times with it, but it doesn't seem to disturb the embossing paste. It stays on there. So you just keep rubbing it until...
So for some reason, the embossing paste reacts with the ink and holds it.
Right.
And that's why you get the reverse image, is because you've got it face down.
Right, exactly.
Ink side down.
And you just, and this is kind of fun. And now see, I tore off the edges a little bit, but that's part of that process of, getting that look, that altered look.
I like that look.
The worn look. And plus, when she was all done with this, and oh, by the way, I want to mention before I move on that while right now that looks really cool just like that, when it dries, it gets a little bit more white, and so I went back with a little more water and just rubbed it a little bit more to get more to that color. You can just kind of keep removing little layers.
So you're more against the ink? Is that what you're,
right.
Okay.
But there it is, you can see.
Wow.
That is so neat. It's just a revealing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it is a mirror image. It's hard to tell on this one, but on the other one.
Tell on this one.
Yeah.
Yes, that's just lovely. And color or black and white seems to make no difference. You can do that.
Right, that's right. It's just a laser photocopy.
Oh, doesn't that look just neat? I think it'd be really pretty even with photos of people. Oh, yeah. You just would want to make sure the faces don't get distorted, but very neat. Looks like she's used the Robin's Red papers and a design tool. And then on the inside, Interesting that she covered that. Very pretty.
So something on the left.
And
well, she did that because there are embellies on the front.
Oh,
and so that covers the back. That's another way to do it. You can also put the embellies underneath this strip, but she went all the way through the card, and that was a nice way to add a little embellishment on the inside.
And you know why she covered them up? Because when we first did card making, we just did the embellies and we said just pop them through. And we got emails and people were not happy with that. They did not
They don't like to see the little legs.
They did not in overwhelming numbers. So good job, Sarah. Okay, now we're going to move into chapter 3. And this is called Distressing with Baby Wipes. Interesting.
Right. Another interesting little look where Sarah used glossy cardstock to get this kind of mottled background.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Right.
Really, really
It is pretty. And for a mixed media technique, this is really, really simple. It's just a very simple technique.
Okay.
And so I have Distress ink, and I have 3 of them here. Stormy Sky, Squeezed Lemonade, and Bundled Sage, but feel free to experiment with your own colors. I've got a piece of glossy cardstock, so it's got that nice glossy finish, and that seems to react well with a baby wipe. So I've got baby wipes over here. I'm going to pull out one. You want one that's kind of a wet baby wipe. And you're going to crumple, you know, first of all, for myself, I do this. I pulled this into a couple of different pieces so I could have a different color for each ink pad. Then you sort of crumple one in your fingers like so. You open up and you start.
Now you're using what colors?
Stormy Sky, Squeezed Lemonade, and Bundled Sage.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with the blue, the Stormy Sky, and you sort of want that crumpled look on there. And you just start pouncing it around. This is going to be light. I'm hoping that you can see it on camera. I'll try to get a little more color on there. So you just start pouncing it around. And I actually kind of like to turn it a little bit as I'm pouncing it so it doesn't leave sharp edges. So you can it's just adding this nice little mottled look.
That's pretty.
On there, you can see that. And then I'm going to move over to the Bundled Sage. Add a little bit of green. So you're just creating this marbled and this depth of when you add the different colors, it's almost adding like a shading to it. And something about what's in the baby wipe that kind of helps it blend and mesh a little bit. And last, we'll add the yellow. I really like the yellow because it adds a lot of highlights. You can really there. So that is the entire process. You can create an entire background like that, so you can really see. It's just kind of an interesting background.
Yeah.
Very simple.
The finished one. And what I think is also nice to point out here is that the focal, which is this Dazzles leaf, I think this is probably also from
the Nature's Touch scrapbooking Dazzles.
Is that although this is shiny and pretty, it really supports the background. It doesn't take away from it. It lets you kind of almost see through it. And I just think that's really, really nice and smart thing to do.
If you make this a little bit bigger than what you're seeing here, then you'll have extra left over, so you can do some stamping on it. And, and for glossy cardstock, you want to use something like a Surfaces or a Stays-On to stamp with.
And then on the inside, this is nice.
Isn't that neat?
Just a little strip of it and let this other Dazzles go over the top. You are amazing.
That's a really sweet look.
Very, very pretty. That's great. Good job.
Beautiful.
Okay, that was chapter 3. Now we're still in chapter 3, which is called Ink Pad Techniques. And we're going to go with this one. So here is another background it looks like.
Right, and this is called Direct to Paper on Acetate. So you actually have an acetate here, and the acetate is the one that gets the treatment. So even before we move on, let me just go ahead and show you how that's so simple. 2 Surfaces ink pads. One is,
I just want to show that we've got acetate sitting here.
There's the acetate. Yeah, you want to be able to see it. I wanted you to see it over the cardstock when I work on it. But Marmalade and Bluebell. And if you want to help me open that one, because they're nice and tight so that they stay inky. And they're sometimes difficulty opening them. So I've got the Bluebell open, and I'm going to go ahead and start with the Bluebell. And I'm going to swipe it across the acetate, just directly on there. And you just,
so that's the direct to
acetate method. And well, because this is made directly for these different surfaces and stays on. I'm actually going to kind of pounce it a little bit and then move it around. They're made to go on acetate. You can put them, you can stamp on surfaces that you wouldn't normally with other inks.
So it's very light.
It's very light.
Yeah.
Let's try to make it so you can see.
Yeah.
You're not seeing a, you know, I kind of find if you have a surface underneath that's a little bit rough, then you might get little bumps, and I'm going to see if it's any different on here, if I can get it to swipe a little bit more. But it is kind of a weathered
translucent,
look, I guess.
yeah, too. And there's your marmalade.
Marmalade. So a couple of different colors on here. Let's see if that one. Put on here so you can see it. And there we go. It's just a very different look. It's kind of a textured look.
It is. So. And it's not saturating it, obviously, as you would if it were paper and you were inking on it.
It's sort of a sketchy look. We're going to look at the card because I think you can see it a little bit better.
There you go. So it is a lighter look, but it is one that is worth noting and kind of looks, as you said, marbleized.
Right.
So that's neat and easy. I mean, easy.
Oh yeah,
so
that's an easy one.
Sometimes with mixed media, we're thinking, or I'm thinking, that you're going to have tons of stuff out. It's going to be a mess and, you know, difficult. And what I appreciate is that what we're seeing is that these are simple, almost small techniques in a way, but with a lot of pounds and a lot of bang for their buck.
A lot of mixed media, you're going to do 2 or 3 different things, and you know, and you're going to be seeing some of that today too. But a lot of these are just like one quick little technique, and you can still say mixed media.
Right, proudly. Now this is the leaf that you did in the first one.
Right, that I sprayed through. It's not the same. It is the same design, and it's been backed on some of the North Country papers.
Right,
so
and then on the inside. Isn't that pretty? Now,
that's just a statement.
That is just lovely. And again, bringing it down to a smaller piece is really effective, as she did on the last card.
It didn't seem like a lot, I know, when I was doing that acetate, but if you just sort of work out a little bit and get some of those streaks on there, it's just, you know, it kind of looks like a watercolor.
It does.
Almost.
Very, very pretty. I'll give you the lid back for the ink pad. Okay, so this is our little jaunt into chapter 3. Obviously, there's lots more. We're going to go to chapter 4, which is around gelatos, right?
Right.
Okay, so this is the next card.
Which is
really just a little note. This is a Sara surface. Now, let me show you. Let's see, I don't have that one.
It's the pocket. This one is just a pocket.
Okay.
Right.
So these, and you talked about slick surfaces and non-slick, and the Sara surfaces have both. So one side is shiny, the other side is matte.
Right.
2 come into a package, and you're going to do a technique on this one, right?
Right, and when you pull them out of the package, they look like this. They're folded up, ready to go. So if you want to alter the outer surface, which is the glossy portion, then you're going to unfold it like that.
Right.
So I've got my craft sheet. I'm going to bring it all out here at once. It's not pulling. There we go. Okay. And so you're actually going to do your work on the craft surface, and then you're going to put this right into it like that. So you're going to start with some gelatos, and I've got 2 sets here. I have the yellow set and the red set. And gelatos are great. They're these great little, they look like little chapsticks, but they don't work like chapsticks at all. And you just pull the cap off, and they're kind of soft, and they're fun to play with. And they all come with, each set comes with a brush and a little stamp, so you can have fun with them in different ways. And so out of those 2 sets, I pulled out tangerine and red cherry, and I am going to place them right onto the craft sheet. So I've got my work surface, and I just sort of turn it.
And notice the
push that
very
more.
careful method that you're using to apply that.
Not everybody can do everybody can do this. Add some of the orange, and then I'm going to add some of the red. And I like to start with the lighter color so that, see, now I'm putting on the red, it's not going to affect this much to touch that orange, but the other way around, it might have, you know, you get a lot of red on there.
Intermingling them, I see.
Definitely. On the craft sheet, I'm going to mix it up. So there we go. So that's on there. Now I'm going to spray it with a little bit, and I said something wrong. I said that I was going to actually put that right on here, but I'm not. I'll show you what I'm actually going to do. I kind of forgot what I was doing. So spray that with a little water, not too much, just a little bit. Then you've got a brayer, and you use the brayer to pick up color.
Oh my.
And I'll try to get it over to a clean spot, and then I'm just going to brayer that right onto the surface.
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't that neat?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that look. And you can add a little more, you can leave it, you can go the other direction. I think I'm going to go one direction. I kind of like that look. And you can...
Oh, fun.
There we go.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's fun to play with. You definitely have to let that dry.
And you do want to do it on a shiny surface, I see. Mm-hmm. Now, this is what Sara did. So she finished off her piece. You can see the background here, and she's added some of the grapefruit papers and some paper towel, and she's done a ribbon, which I think is a very fun look. And I don't think there's anything inside here.
The ribbon closure.
But, oh, why, my goodness, there is. You're the best. And this is a perfect size for a gift card.
A gift card, sure, or money, or...
movie tickets, anything like that. So very pretty. Again, just a really sweet look. Now we're still in chapter 4, talking about gelatos, and here is another technique. And Sara calls this the craft sheet swirl, right?
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a dance almost.
It does, doesn't it? So,
but I love this. Oh, I'll show you. But I just love this look. It's just this great swirl of color, and those bicycle dazzles just look beautiful on top of it there. So we're going to start that out with the craft sheet. That's essential. And then we have gelatos again, and these are still from the reds and the yellows. So we've got those sets, and I've got one of each. I have lemon and bubble gum. And if there's anything that we're missing in details, that's all on the DVD. You can see everything that we've done there. Okay, we're going to start this by scribbling on the craft sheet a pretty big area. We want big enough to hold the cardstock that you're going to be placing on there. I've got one, I've got another.
And again, you're not doing it solidly. You're scribbling so that there's empty spaces so you can bring in the second color. Yeah.
Sure. So this one, we're going to go ahead and spritz that with some water. Not too much on this one. I want to use kind of a light touch. In fact, yeah, one more. There. If you use too much, it's just too watery and it doesn't get the look that you want to achieve. You want just a little bit of water. Place your cardstock right on there, kind of press it down, and then swirl it. And it kind of wants to stick a little bit, so I want to swirl it, and then I want to lift it, and we'll see what happens.
Ah,
there.
I see our swirl.
So you can see the swirl, you can see some of the actual streaks that in there. And the neat thing about this is that I can set that off to the side, let it dry, spritz that a little bit more, and
is that why I'm holding a second piece of cardstock?
Try it again.
Okay, so you can go into the various other areas of it. Ah,
so a couple of this one is a little bit, there was a little bit more water, so you don't get it quite as much definition, but you still get that neat swirl look. So
you kind of have a hurricane right in the middle there.
Kind of cool.
Yeah.
So that's another simple gelatos technique.
Now in this particular case, you can see how Sara had more pink in this area and her yellow was on the edges. Again, kind of the same as I commented on another card, is that we can see this technique. It really is a nice supportive of the focal that she has, which in this case is dazzles.
Right.
But it's just nice to kind of be aware of that. You might want to do a flower or something that is going to let your eye kind of go over both of the elements. Yeah.
And I like that she did it on several different pieces of paper, and then small scraps probably, and used to back the dazzles. So the greens were used, the green gelatos, to back those, the present and the little flowers there.
And then on the inside, she's got some little balloons there from that same set of bicycles and baskets, I think, dazzles.
That's
Now,
a really happy one.
We're
Smile.
still in the gelatos. Are you happy? We're still in the gelatos,
Still in
chapter.
gelatos, right? So chapter 4, and this is
Right.
the Color Me background.
Right. Now, Sara has used a portfolio. This is part of what we have left of the Sara Surfaces line. These are 8.5 by 11 portfolios. There are 2 in the package, and
Isn't it beautiful?
she actually made one once for me.
Oh.
We were going to Italy, and it was so useful to put tickets and maps and things
sure.
in. So
Great. For a travel,
Yeah.
travel portfolio. Wonderful.
now this one is all about love, and isn't this just lovely?
That's beautiful. And it's from the Color Me sampler pack, the silver Color Me sampler
Right.
pack papers, which are actually 12 by 12 papers. And the one that she chose out of that pack was this one, this big large one.
As you can see.
Right, and I wanted to mention, while, you know, we'll show a little bit of the altering of this, and then of course she used it to cut into pieces and put on that portfolio. That's a scrapbook page. So
Yeah.
mixed media for scrapbooking too. Very easily done on a
Yes.
12 by 12 paper, especially the Color Me papers. I'm going to put down a craft sheet just so I don't make a mess. But this is another simple process which uses some of the gelatos. I've got a
Right.
couple of different colors here I can choose from. And this is a technique that I haven't done before, but she used a baby wipe. I mean, I've done baby wipes with gelatos, but kind of not in the way that she did. So this is kind of neat. So you get a baby wipe. So this is a nice...
And I guess as you said that, I'm thinking that that's really the fun of this DVD. It's going to let you safely explore mixed media.
Right.
And without being an expert, but just with the attitude of, well, let me see what Sara did, and maybe I'll play and do that too.
See if that works for me.
Now you're coloring them on the
I'm
side.
coloring them on the side. I'm not really mixing them together.
I see.
And I'm just going to add one more color. So you've got your colors. So that's your palette, basically. So
Okay.
you have your palette here on your craft sheet. You have this baby wipe, and here's the fun part. You just wrap it around your finger. You pick up the color like so, and you use that to sort of direct the color right where you want it to go.
You're kidding me.
Nope, that's easy. It is that simple, folks.
Really?
So just going around, that was the way that she got it to go. Right now that works great. See, I was going to say another way to do this, and the way that I have done it before, is actually scribbled directly onto the area in no particular fashion, just sort of scribbled it on, and then used a baby wipe to spread it around. And either way works.
It almost seems like you get a more uniform color picking it up
The way
off the
she
craft
did it,
sheet.
yeah, it is. That's great. So I'm going to move to a
fun.
different area and pick up some of the orange.
I was expecting you to rip that into shreds, into many little pieces.
Nope, just move on to a different. Isn't that beautiful?
It is just lovely, and who would have thought?
And in the process of doing this, I find that it sort of wipes the color right off of the embossed Color Me surface as
Right.
well. As
In fact,
you're
that's
working.
something that we should say, is that the Color Me, the silver area that you're seeing, is actually embossed. It's raised, and it's going to resist the color as you're showing, but the paper, of course, is going to absorb the
Okay,
color.
technically
which
I'm
is-
supposed to stop. This is fun. I just kind of
Is that fun? You're just having a good time there. Okay.
Okay.
We're going to then go back to the portfolio, and I just want to show you what this looks like. Sara has tied it with a ribbon, which is nice. You could also certainly put Velcro if you wanted to tie it. But you can see that she's used that, probably half of that sheet, and she's even done the big center area with all the words in it. She did put a little bit of pattern paper here, and this piece is from a sheet that has borders and labels, and so that's also part of the Color Me sampler pack. Now she did add some hummingbird dazzles, as you can see, because they're silver. The other thing she did is she raised this piece up, so she cut it from a different area and did
Right.
the gelatos and then
So that
raised
gives
it.
you a little depth, and
Right.
it's just beautiful. The whole portfolio is just a really nice job, and it's a really neat, that's a really neat present for somebody too.
It is, and here's one of the borders from that same sheet that has the tags.
Right.
And the inside is empty. Now, she glued this to the matte side, so the glossy side is inside in this case. And these all come unglued so that you really can cover them, do what you want. So that's a nice look.
A simple technique that's fun to do. I mean, I was sitting there playing with it and going, yeah, I just want to keep going. So that's fun.
Now we're going into chapter 5, and chapter 5 is called Pens and Inks. And look at this. So we're going to get close to that leaf because there's stuff going on there.
And this first technique that you're looking at here is called coloring stamped images.
Oh, that doesn't sound very...
But, you know, there's so many different ways, and this one is a more involved. Now we're talking a little bit more of the mixing different techniques in your mixed media. And this is actually done on one of the coin envelopes that's from Sara's Surfaces.
Okay, well, let me show you that then. Here's the coin envelope. So there's 2 in here, and as you can see, when it's all done, it's the perfect size for holding, again, gift card, any little extra thing. But what I want to focus on, and I'm glad John's getting in close, is look at that leaf. Not only does it have dimension and some really interesting color, but there's some shiny stuff on top.
Right, so there's lots of layers to this, and this is using the small leaf stamp as well, which has got that little thanks sentiment right on there, which is nice.
So this little leaf, and you know, the one thing I'm noticing is that having it on a smaller surface like the coin envelope lets you really go down and really focus on it. Okay, so you're going to show us these steps.
I'm going to show you steps. I'm going to show you first that I have started some of it so you don't have to see all the kind of detaily stuff that you probably already know, which is first the leaf was stamped with Versamark, dusted with embossing powder, so you've actually got an embossed leaf there. So it was heat set with a heat gun. And then I started coloring it in. I've got the Reds Spectrum Noir pen set.
So here's the rest of the package, the ones that you didn't use.
She has a real set way of coloring it in, where the different colors go. Definitely look at the instructions for that so you can see which colors she used in which area. But she did first fill it in, and she just kind of scribbled it lightly and filled it in. You don't have to go all the way to the edges in this case. Filled it in with, this happens to be CR8. Then I think she took CR11, and if I'm wrong, you'll just have to look at the instructions to make sure. Went around some of the veins, because it's just a little bit darker. So she did, so that fills in some of those white areas around the veins.
Oh, and interesting to do it that way.
Right, just keep adding layers of color. So now you've got the dark areas around the veins, and I'm even going to go in and go around the swirls. That's what you see down there, a little bit of highlighting around the swirls. And the last thing I'm going to do as far as coloring is there's the orange, a little bit of an orange color, it's CR10, and that I'm going around the outside edges. So now you've got a little bit of that orange around that makes for a little bit more depth, a little bit more different color. And then I'm going to...
Now, would the intent be to completely color each of those areas of the leaf?
It's, you know, you don't have to be absolutely perfect on there because it gives kind of a nice look anyway, but there's one more step that should get that all to blend together nicely. Before I started, I want to point out that I have one that I've already used here. This is a baby white, but it's a dry baby white. It has to be used or dried out. Also, just a dry cloth would work. Something that doesn't have water or anything on it already. And I have rubbing alcohol, and I put it in a little spritzer bottle. So this isn't water, it has to be rubbing alcohol because the pens are alcohol and you want it to react to that. So you give that a few good sprays.
Oh, really?
That helps to blend it together, and then you immediately start pouncing the color around like this.
Oh, and that's going to blend
That helps to blend it, and it also moves the color out around. It's very hard to see on camera, but it's just kind of a light halo around it. If I spray it a little bit more, you want that color to just sort of move around. You can really...
Well, that's a neat way to do that.
So that blended, you see it pretty well blended, everything.
Let's hold it up, maybe that will give a little more of the color. You can see it, hopefully.
There, you can see it around it,
Okay.
So that's step one. Now,
step two, because you heat embossed it.
True, heat embossed it. Colored it, spritzed it with that alcohol, and not water but alcohol, regular rubbing alcohol, and then you want it to dry a little bit, and once it's really fully dry, which doesn't take long because that's just rubbing alcohol on there. Then you're going to use 3D crystal lacquer. So I'm going to get that ready, but at the same time, no, one at a time. And you just go around. She just
you talk to yourself.
I always. I'm the only one who listens. So you just go around and just sort of put a light layer. It doesn't have to be real thick. It's got pretty fine tips, so you can pretty much direct it right where you want it.
So that's going to give the gloss.
That's the gloss. That's that nice shine.
And it pillows up a little bit too.
It does.
But it's staying within the embossed area.
It sort of helps to keep it in there. The embossing sort of does that. But that's what Sara did. She just went around and covered that completely. And it does take a long time for crystal lacquer to dry. So this is going to have to be, when you're done, you're going to have to set it up away from kids and pets and everybody.
Touch it.
So, okay, that's on there, but that's not the final step. So you can definitely see that glossy.
Which I love, by the way. And I also love, as I said, the pillowing of it.
Right.
Now
I'm bringing in Perfect Pearls. And this is what the Perfect Pearls Cafe set looks like. You have these beautiful colors. You've got the perfect medium. You always get 2 brushes with it. We only need the larger brush. And we only need 3 of the colors. These 3 colors. No, she didn't use 3 colors. She used 1 color on this one. I was thinking of another project I'm going to be doing. And this one is called Biscotti. I love that. I love that name. Anyway, you kind of tap it down.
Now you tap that just to get it down.
Just to get it down into the off of the lid so it doesn't go everywhere. And while the crystal lacquer is wet, and it stays wet for a while, so you've got a lot of time, you just get some of that on there. You can tap some of it on here if you don't want too much, and you just sort of sprinkle it on there.
So you're just tapping it.
Maybe that's what I'm going to try to, well, maybe not quite that much. I did try to tap it off from the lid first, so that you're just supposed to sort of get a little bit of spattering on there.
Now, the reason why this is not a disaster is because it's going to be clear. The Biscotti is just going to be shiny, and the crystal lacquer, of course, is clear. So you're just going to get more.
It'll absorb it, and I kind of think I could do that maybe a little bit. I am sort of lightly, and see some of it's coming off, and anyway, it's pretty.
It is pretty. let me bring Sarah's in quickly.
There, see, just a little bit, a light touch.
Yeah, very, very pretty. Such a lovely look. Now she did cover the coin envelope, as you can see, with a couple of pieces, and she has glued this together. And so again, you can tuck a gift tag, gift card, and anything in it that you like. There's some embellies, but just a really striking look. And I also like the fact that even though there's so much color around it and so much color in the leaf, that the white cardstock, even with that really light halo of color around it, which I'm not sure you can see, but in person it is there, and it's just, it does, again, draws your eye right to that focal.
And it's not just this stark white, which in many cases can be beautiful. It just sort of adds this hue to it. That's nice.
Now we're staying in the same chapter, right? And we are going to do some acetate.
Right, so it's still within chapter 5, and this is called Doing Mixed Media on Acetate.
I think this is so pretty.
It is, it's just beautiful. Can you really, you can see that gloss, right? Because that is a piece of acetate on top.
That is acetate, see?
It has been stamped on, it has been colored in with pens, and there's a lot more going on.
And obviously this is the feather stamp set, which is gorgeous, and for some reason I don't have to show you, but you know, it's there. And just to show you the inside of this card, this is a fun technique of, you did it with the image, but to also do it with words.
Right, so just stamp on the acetate, then treat the cardstock behind and stick the adhesive onto the acetate and then onto the cardstock.
And add your Perfect Pearls, and just really pretty. So it's nice to see words as well as the image done with this technique. So.
And that's part of that stamp set. Those words go with the stamp. It's a great stamp set.
Now we are in chapter 5. We've got one more technique that we're going to show. Not one more technique that's in the chapter, but
there are lots of techniques in each chapter. Believe me, there are at least 6 6, 8, 10 in many of those chapters.
And this is an alcohol ink monoprinting.
And this is one of my favorites. It's just beautiful, but it is absolutely going to look different every single time you do it. I did it a couple
deal
of times.
with it, huh?
Yeah. Play with the colors, but doesn't it look, to me, it looks like a piece of tin or something that's been painted over and then scuffed over with that inking. It's just a beautiful look.
Now you do start with embossing folder, and this particular postcard embossing folder will not be available until September. So just want you to know that, but isn't it gorgeous?
It is gorgeous. It's one of my favorites.
But you're going to show this technique with something else?
I am going to show this.
Okay.
So what I have is the silky papers. So this has been used on several of our different techniques. It's just a nice way of blending the pens. It works really great on our silky papers. So I have that, and I have 3 Spectrum Noir re-inkers. In this case, I have CG1, DG3 and CR8, but you know, you can experiment with what you have. Another thing that's kind of interesting that I'm going to use is the packaging from one of our paper packs. So you can use any plastic packaging because we have to sort of do something between 2 layers. So I'm going to bring that in as well.
So you slid that.
So yeah, so I save the
it.
packaging from a paper pack, and then I cut the sides so it sort of opens up like that.
Okay.
That's where I'm going to end up putting this in just a moment. But I also need that alcohol again, rubbing alcohol that mixes well with the re-inkers because they're an alcohol blend.
Right.
So I'm going to start with the re-inkers. And you don't want to go overboard on putting drops down for this process. And I also kind of like to stay around the edges. I might put 1 or so in the center, but sort of go around the edges like so. And that's just a very few drops. Of the dark, I want to go the least amount. And I'm putting this on that plastic that's sitting on that craft sheet. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of the green, just a little bit. Let's see if I can. Oh, come on.
Tinier dots, huh?
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to, there we go. Just in a few areas, I'm just going to, I think I'll leave it at that. I don't want very much of that dark. It really makes an impact. And then I've got the lighter green that I can do. It has almost a little yellow in it, and that one sort of squeezes. So that one I don't mind getting in the center. You want those to mix a little bit. Now, the way I'm going to mix them is with the alcohol. So we add the alcohol, and it helps to blend it a little bit. Just a little bit of that alcohol. Now, before I do anything else, I place my cardstock on there. I just set it right on there, like so. I close over the top part of this, and then I'm going to press it in place.
So that contains those inks.
Right. I'm also going to, using a brayer is great. It's they're going to be mixing around underneath that paper. You can see them mixing around, and it's going to keep all of that ink within there. This does dry relatively quickly too because it's just the rubbing alcohol. But see, don't even get my brayer dirty in that one. Then you open it up, and here's the fun part, finding out what you actually came up with, the reveal. Turn that over and see what happened. Okay, so we've got a lot around the edges, not a lot in the center. If you want to, you can set it right back on top of there and repeat the process. Just rub it around, see if you can get, I certainly got it on the back.
Nice job.
There, you can, it made kind of a stripe. So you can get some interesting effects. It really sort of marbles it. And then when you're done with that, you want to let that dry, and you're going to run it through an embossing folder, which I did so, and the embossing folder I used was this one, the swirl.
Label with swirls?
Labels with swirl. So it's got that, I love this. This is one of our embossing folders with that great silk screened image on the front. And the piece that I used was this. And so I ran it through the embossing folder so you can see that beautiful embossed edging all around. It's just gorgeous. I love that look. See, you never know what it's going to be. I think I tried this 3 different times, and what I learned for sure is that I didn't like the dark right in the center, but maybe you would. So I kind of kept it toward the edge. And then you get a Surfaces ink pad, and this one I have the black Surfaces ink pad. And what you want to try to do is stay on the top of that embossing. So I'm just going to sort of lightly just hit the top with that ink pad and just sort of.
You're kind of scrubbing it, aren't you?
Right. Just sort of trying to hit I'm going to try to stay away from the large center area. If you do hit it, this is great. Sarah, on the video, Sarah says, if you do get it on those, some nice big splotches where you don't want it, that's just an opportunity for an embellishment.
Okay.
So I thought that was great.
Happy accident.
Right, but just really just kind of, this gives you a really kind of a vintagey, textured look. A little bit of just, you can really see it pop out of that.
Well, and
so
the contrast of the colors behind it with the black is striking, as we can see on her finished card. And using the center area to do some stamping. She's added some black jewel dazzles, as you can see. And then on the inside, she has just another area of the silky paper that was stamped on for the inside. And I really appreciate that she's using some of the mixed media into the inside of her cards.
Isn't that beautiful? See how different that is? You just get all kinds of different looks with that.
Very fun. So you can pick and choose what little pieces you want. So word to the wise, always start with the larger piece. I think you mentioned that earlier, so that you've got these extra little pieces to use. Now we are going to skip chapter 6 and 7 and go into 8, right?
Into 8. And right into reverse stenciling.
Yeah, now
isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, it is lovely. And this particular one is a stencil from our friends at Crafters Workshop. So one with lots of feathers, as you can see.
I think that one's called, I think it's called Fancy Feathers or something like that. But it's really, it's one of those little 6x6 stencils. And I don't have that one on hand, but I did have another one which looks like this.
I like seeing another design with the technique.
I love the leaves too on here. So in this particular technique, you want something that has a little bit of background in the stencil. You don't want it to be completely see-through. You got to have some of that stenciling because you're going to put your ink directly onto the stencil. And here we go. So I've got Distress ink. I have Peacock Feathers Distress ink. It's nicely inked, and I'm going to go ahead and just put this directly onto the stencil.
Onto the stencil.
That's right. So I'm actually going to sort of stencil through right to the craft sheet, but that's all right. So now I'm going to do this kind of as quick as I can, so try to keep the ink wet. If you want to huff on it, like some people have suggested before, you can, to try to keep the ink wet before you stamp with it. But once I get it kind of all over and really get it saturated, then I'm
and you get a little bit of different thicknesses of the ink.
Sure.
So that's going to happen.
Right down onto my cardstock. And you can, you know, I should have done it the other way. I should have put the cardstock on top of the stencil. I definitely should have done that. But in this case, I'm going to use the brayer to really get it to sit down on there.
Okay.
Next time I do it, I'm going to leave the stencil there and put the cardstock on top of it.
Okay. We do this just for you, so you don't have to see the easier way to do it.
But there we go. So it's pressed down all over. I remove the stencil. Ooh, look at that.
Okay, now you've got some texture going in there, which as that dries and it seeps into the cardstock, that's really nice.
That is neat. It really picked up like the edges of the stencil, so you've got those leaves around. So you can do that with any stencil. It's just a reverse stenciling.
That's interesting because you've got the fine lines that that particular stencil had, but you also have this kind of fun background.
Yeah, that mottled look.
Now,
Beautiful.
what Sarah, a little bit easier, I think, to see on this one because the images are larger. And you could certainly separate those and make individual focals if you wanted to. And like so many times, it's nice to see it used on a different design.
Right.
Because you can kind of, well, maybe I like that better, or maybe I like this better. Now, on the inside, she has trimmed out 2 of them and just let them overlap with another little circle.
Instant embellishments.
Yeah, very nice. And notice that she also threaded this twine through the card fold, did a couple of
I like that.
punched holes, and brought that onto the top. So that's really going to secure it in place.
Sure. You can get
nice.
both of those twines, the natural and the black, are within the chalkboard the chalkboard ribbon set too. It has a lot of other ribbons, but it's got both of those twines.
So that's a nice set. Now we are going, so this is the reverse stenciling, and now we're going to go into the last one that we're going to show you today, and this is in chapter 8 also, And this is adding dimension is the technique.
All right, so you want to add a look that will help add dimension, that will help add the layers, the depth, and this is a great way to do it.
Right, and this is a nice blending of Gail and Sara.
It is. She's using the feathers template, feathers and flourishes template.
Do you have that over there? Can we bring it in?
So there's the feathers and flourishes template.
And this is magic. It doesn't look razzle-dazzle right here, but let me tell you, it is.
Look at the feathers. It's so much fun. It's fun to furl those feathers, to curl them, or to, I like this look too, where they're just sort of sitting flat there. But it's, in this case, the media that she used, the colors, the perfect pearls and everything. Let's show you what she did.
Okay, let's show.
Okay, we're going to start with the craft sheet.
Of course.
Which you can get from us, by the way. These are great craft sheets. And we have distress paints. We have the Tim Holtz distress paints. I have Salty Ocean, Antique Linen, and Peeled Paint. And we're going to start by just swiping that on our cardstock. And Sara said, and let's see, is this, I think, oh, silky papers, again, she used. She really likes the silky papers because it's just got a little bit of a smooth finish, but not quite glossy.
It's also a super white color. Now, you know, you may not be aware, but the color of your cardstock, even if it's white, sometimes white is a blue white, sometimes it is a yellow white. So that does affect the color of your finished project.
Right.
So this is a super, super white cardstock with the finish on it to help the blending process. Plus, the inks will not saturate through and show through. The Spectrum Noir pens won't show.
That's why we like it.
That's why we like it. So you're doing each of them.
I'm doing each of the paints. I'm doing multiple layers, and
That's pretty.
Yeah, it is. And while it's wet, I'm going to grab my Perfect Pearls from the Cafe set. She likes that set a lot.
Well, it's nice that we've seen so many uses for it.
And I'm going to tap it on while the paint is wet. And I'm not going to worry about how much to get on there. It's totally fine in this case.
She says justifying that earlier.
I think I'll put on a little bit of the mandarin too, just so it sort of stands out a little bit. There we go. And if you want to move that around, there you can do that. And after that's on there, you do want the Perfect Pearls to set, and the way to do that is with a little water. So we're going to spritz that. That's going to set the Perfect Pearls. You let that dry. It definitely stays on there so that it won't rub off.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you can heat set Perfect Pearls or use water to set it, and then it doesn't rub off. Yeah.
Interesting.
We do that all the time.
Okay.
And here is a piece that I did prior that's already dry. That Perfect Pearls is on there. It stays on there pretty much. It's
I love
good
the
to go.
spattering look. That's very fun.
But that is depth in itself.
Yeah.
So you can see those layers, you can see depth there. But if you want to use the template, then are we going to show that, or are we just going to talk about that?
Well, whatever you want. So in this particular case, the feathers that she's using are two different ones, right? She's got the quail, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to do I think just the quail in this one, a couple of different quail. But what you do is take that piece of paper, you're going to fold it over. So you're going to have a folded edge back here. And you can use a bone folder, but I'm just going to use my finger at the moment. And if you can grab me a pencil,
I can.
I'm going to set this down, and there's the fold line. I might better turn it this way. Here's the fold line, and I take the fold line, which it says it is the fold line for the quail feather, and you lay that right along the fold. You trace that with a pencil, and this I'll go ahead and do the large one, which I think is number 1. And then that's how much you need the stencil. There you go. Then you cut that out right along that traced line. And I think this is just a kind of a relaxing, fun thing, just cutting and cutting small cut lines. Because once you have that cut out, you sort of look at your template and see which way the little lines are going for the feather cuts. And you just start cutting to get some feather cuts on your feather.
And you can go in as far as you want or as narrow as you want.
Right, and you can make them really wide. Yeah, you can make them very thin cuts. I'm just going to do a little bit because she's pretty much got it on that card. You can go real close to the center, and I'm going to go ahead and open it up. But once you do, then you've got this beautiful feather with these feather cuts. And look at that, that shimmer and shine. Let's look at the finished piece.
Do that. And as Gail said, now I'm a fan of ruffling them. I love the dimension, and I just think that is so lovely.
I love the addition of those gold jewel dazzles right down the center, too.
That's very clever, very nice. So just a beautiful, beautiful look. And now her background here is a pattern paper. It happens to be out of the Fancy Feathers, but it certainly looks like some of the designs we've seen, doesn't it?
Mixed media, so it just fits perfectly.
Now I have to tell you, we've shown you 13 projects, which is 13% of what is in this Mixed Media Made Easy DVD.
Really, it is.
And it's a great deal of fun. You'll have a lot of fun with it, a lot of creativity.
You can really experiment and get your feet wet with Mixed Media Made Easy.
And Sarah, great job, as we knew would happen.